do you all have any questions about any of the content that was presented for exam 4? Be 60 multiple choice questions. You'll have 62 minutes to take the exam, and then we're going to have class afterwards and lab, right? So another long day. Okay, but there's only 2 days left of lecture, and then after that, it's just exams. All right, so what questions do you have? What questions do you have? What clarifications do you need? Somebody say hello so I know you're there.
Hello.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so what questions then? Anybody have? That's correct. Yep. So you can turn, so so you'll turn in the study aid for 20 points. So, okay. So you 80, the exam will, the 60 questions will be worth 80 points and then 20. So, if you compare it to the study aid from exam 3, to me, that was really detailed. So James, the last lab report is 6. There will be no 7. Okay. Yeah. You're still responsive for the material. Well, actually, it's already happened, right? So you took practical 3, but the stuff we're doing now for practical 4, there's no lab report for it. It's at this point, I'm hoping that you understand what it's going to take to be successful in nursing school, and you don't need to do any more lab reports for me. Study aid the same way, mostly because there really isn't a good way to have a study aid for etiology. There's a list, and at the bottom of that list, you'll find a lot of things that are important. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or anything they want answered about the content?
I have a question, Professor.
Yes, ma'am. Lakeisha, what's up?
So, the lab, not the lab, the report that we do for the actual test for the questions,
The
the
outline?
the outline, that
Yes,
is
ma'am.
the last one is that we're doing is the last one, correct? The one that should be due on Wednesday or Monday when we
On Monday.
on
Yeah,
Monday. That's the last
that's it.
one. Okay.
That's the last one. There'll be
Okay.
no others. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else? Yeah. Yep. So with natural immunity, that means that that you that you come in contact um, with the biological entity that's going to help you to derive the adaptive immunity. And that can either be done naturally, because you come down with an infection and the immune system responds to that infectious agent in the body and produces immunoglobulins plus other memory cells that are cell mediated. Or that's long term. Or Justin, you can get from mama to baby, either from going across the placenta or from the breast milk, right? Those will have immunoglobulins, and then it will help to protect the baby, and that's a natural process, right? And so therefore, it's natural and it's short term. That's short term. Artificially, you can acquire immunity artificially by by taking an immunization, a vaccine. And so the body doesn't know that it's not a whole organism, that it's a piece of it, and it reacts the same way. So it's going to produce immunoglobulins against that particular structure that is associated with the vaccine. Like, for instance, the COVID-19 is a spike protein, right? But you're going to have long-term benefit from that, right? And so you're going to be protected for life. Short term, you can acquire immunity by taking immunocells or immunocomplexes, right? Gamma globulin, convalescent plasma, things like that. Um, and that'll be short term. It's passive, right? You're going to get it from somebody else, and it's going to give you a short term protection against the infectious agents that it might protect against. Okay, did that answer your question, Justin? Active and passive. So active is you come in contact with the either the biological agent or the biological protecting particles naturally. Actively, it gets in the body, it does things in the body. Passively, you acquire it because you're going to get those particular biological particles from somebody else, or you're going to develop immunization. You're going to develop immunoglobulins because of a vaccine. So it is um, it is a passive. They're passive processes. You're not going to go through the infection to get them. Okay. Yep. So the pros to vaccines are that you can develop immunity without coming down with the infectious agent, and that's always a good thing to me because um, you get exposed to certain pieces of the infectious agent, but your body responds to it by producing protection so that you're protected against the infectious agent, even though you might have been exposed to a portion of that particular infectious agent, right? And this is long term, right? And so people are gun shy about telling us that that COVID-19 is only good for 2 years now. That's what I've heard. It's going to be longer than that. It's just they don't have the stability data to show that it works that long, right? So it's a really good. That's a very good pro. Cons of taking vaccines are that you will have side effects, right? You will have a little bit of a soreness at the site of injection. You'll develop a little bit of fever, maybe. You might have a little bit of lethargy. You might be tired. Um, you might have some localized swelling. You might feel like you're achy, right? So nobody wants to feel like that, but it's a biological process. It's the body is responding to a non-self entity that's been placed in the body. More more drastically, a con is that um, one out of every 100,000 individuals who take the vaccine will potentially have an adverse reaction. And an adverse reaction can be anything from hives to shortness of breath to complete anaphylaxis. In that case, sheesh, you just simply um, don't. I don't want that to happen to anybody, and I'm sure nobody wants it to happen to themselves. But a good um, a good medical practice will ask you to stay with them for about 15 minutes because if you're going to have an anaphylactic reaction to a component of the vaccine, it's going to usually happen within 15 minutes. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to happen within the first 2 minutes. But it's important that you stay there because they can always respond with norepinephrine and things like that. Hmm. Yeah, it's that's a good practice, right? So the HEB I went to, I love the people at my pharmacy, but they didn't ask me to wait. Um, but maybe they knew because I have a lot of medical training. Maybe they knew that, and because they know me, maybe they decided they didn't. I was going to be in the store anyway. I was gonna I was gonna buy bluebell ice cream and things like that. But they didn't ask me to wait. They did ask my wife to wait. So and that's just so that they can respond pretty quickly with a little bit of an antihistamine and then call EMS to help out, right? If you're going to have an anaphylactic reaction. We don't hear a lot about the anaphylactic reactions. Those are reported, and you can find them at the VAERS or the FDA website. Because they're infrequent and they're rare, some people will get a hold of those and publish them on Facebook, and scares the hell out of people. So, we just have to be careful how we look at that information. Okay. Josh, is that good? All right. Anybody else? Those are both really great questions. Uh, so RO, okay, but so RO is not an antitox. So RO is reproductive number. RO means how quickly something will spread in a population, Mercy. An antitoxin is IgG against a specific toxin. Okay. For instance, if you get treated if you get treated for tetanus, you're not going to get treated against um, Clostridium tetani. You're going to be treated against the toxin that is tenazospasm. It's a toxin that tetanus produces. It's just IgG against the toxin. So Mercy, you had a couple of things in there, so hopefully I answered both of the questions you had there. Hmm. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yeah, I want to rapid fire or not? It seems like you guys have low energy today. Maybe you don't want to. Oh, okay. Let's do it. All right, James, let's do it. I don't know if I'm going to pick 10, but I'm going to just do some at random. Okay, so we'll start with determinants of health and disease. Okay, so um, if we think about determinants of health and disease, we talk about some different terms. Which term describes the ability of a microorganism to cause disease in a human? What is that term? What term do we use to describe that? So virulence is a high degree to cause that pathogenic. Very good. And if an organism is typically a commensal or a mutualistic organism associated with our body, but given the right opportunity and can get into the body and cause disease, what term do we use to describe that? Opportunistic. Very good. And what is the difference between an infection and an intoxication? What's the difference between an infection and an intoxication? Okay, toxin versus organism, very good. And so which one happens within 4 hours of exposure to the etiology? A toxin, very good, very good. Can you give me an example of a toxin that affects the body? Salmonella is not a toxin. Lipid A is endotoxic, very good, Justin. But we're looking more for something that's going to be quick acting, so you're going to need an exotoxin. So what, can you give me an example of an exotoxin? So salmonella is causes an infection. Botulinum is a good one. Very good, very good, very good. Um, when we look at virulence factors, right? I asked you to know virulence factors in 4 different categories. Can you tell me what those 4 different categories are? What are those 4 categories of virulence factors? Structural, toxin, enzyme, and antiphagocytic. Very good. Very nicely. Very nicely. What's the difference between an exotoxin and an endotoxin? What's the difference? Let's do this. Which one is protein by nature? Endo or exo? Exotoxin, very good. Which one is associated with the gram-negative cell wall? Endotoxin, very good. Which one of them is mildly toxic but be very dangerous in a large quantity? Endotoxin, very good, very good. Which one is protein? Oh, I'm sorry, I already asked that. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's go innate. So, can you name some of the non-specific physical barriers that the body has? Skin, very good. Another one. Another one. Mucous membranes, very good. Um, can you name a few of the flushing mechanisms? Crying, okay, tears, sneezing, coughing. The mucus escalator, that is really sweet. Yes, yes, sir. Very good. Can you name some of the non-specific chemical barriers that we have? I think it's sweet also. Yeah. Can you name some of the specific non-specific chemical barriers? Acid of the stomach, very good. What else? What else? What else? What else? What about on the skin? What about on the skin? Sweat. Can you be more specific? Oh, the pH, the oils of the skin. Can you name an oil? The strumina, I like the wax, yeah. So can you name a specific oil? Okay, very good. Um, hey, what enzyme is produced by certain microorganisms that is known as a spread factor because it can break down the cement of the cells? Hyaluronic hyaluronic acid is the cement. Hyaluronidase is the enzyme. Very good. What about an enzyme? What about an enzyme that actually forms a clot around the infection to protect the infection from diapedesis? What is that enzyme called? Starts with a C, ends with an E. Nope, not cytokine. Jordan, cytokine are molecules that recruit other. So remember, enzymes are going to end with an ASE, coagulase. That's it, coagulase. Very good. Excellent job. Okay. Um, hey, um, tell me what happens, or what is the term that describes the formation of a cascade of proteins that can uh, enhance phagocytosis, destroy microorganisms, and neutralize toxins and viruses? What is that? What is that term that describes that process? Complement. Very good. And what is the term that describes the molecules that are secreted in minute amounts by every single cell of the body, and they are anti-cancer and antiviral because they interfere with. So what is that? What is that term used? Interference. And what do they interfere with? What do they interfere with? What do they interfere with? Um, Specifically, transcription and translation. Very good. hmm Very good. Messenger RNA. Very good. Very good. Very good. Like it a lot. Okay. Let's see. So cake. When you hear the acronym CAKE, CAIKE, what does that mean? What does cake mean? Cake. CAIKE. What does it mean? Phagocytosis. Very good. And what does the C stand for? Chemotaxis adherence ingesting. Very good. Very good. Very good. Excellent job. Um, which of the white blood cells show up when a parasite is in the body? No, not neutrophils, eosinophils. Very good. Um, which white blood cell shows up when there's bacteria in the body? Right, neutrophils. Very good. And which white blood cell shows up when there is an allergic reaction in the body? Good. And which? Oh, not oh no, not basophil. Oh, wait a minute. No. Okay. Okay. Because you're histamines. Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying, Justin. I have to be careful the way I ask that question. It's eosinophil. That's correct. But Justin's not exactly wrong because the basophils release histamines, right? Um, and so I see where he's going with that. Okay, so I got to be real careful when I need to go back and look at that question that I asked about that because I don't want that to be confusing. Okay, thank you for elucidating that for me, Justin. Okay, very good. Hey, which immunoglobulin is associated with the surface of the B lymphocyte, and it's known to enhance the role of the beta lymphocyte? Which immunoglobulin is associated with that? Madge, one of those guys. IgD, very good. Which immunoglobulin can lyse microorganism, neutralize toxins and viruses, but is associated with the mucous membranes? No, not IgM, not IgM. IgA, very good, very good. Which which immunoglobulin is the early bird immunoglobulin? Has a short half-life, shows up really early. IgM, very good. And which immunoglobulin is known to protect us against allergens, but sometimes overreacts and IgE and causes anaphylaxis? Very good. And what's the most common and most important of all immunoglobulins found because it provides long-term memory protection, long-term protection in the body? Immunoglobulin, IgG. Very good. Very good. Very good. Excellent. So, so give me an example of acquired immunity that is actively formed. Give me an example of a being sick with an infectious agent, Mercy, right? Right, with an infectious. Give me an example of acquired immunity that is, let's see, artificially passive. Kamala, ooh, like it a lot. That's very good. Excellent job. Excellent job. Um, let's see. What else? So, okay, here, let's do a little on vaccines. So with vaccines, which of the vaccines give you the whole organism, but the organism is completely denatured, so there's no chance that it can revert to virulence? Which of the vaccines work in that platform? Completely denatured or destroyed, still there, uh, inactivated. Very good. Which of the vaccines give us just pieces of the infectious agent, and therefore, even though they're just pieces, right, um, the immune system can produce immunity against those pieces? So, very good. Which of the vaccines uses the whole infectious agent that all of the virulence factors have been removed? So it still acts like the organism, but doesn't really cause infection. What is that type of vaccine? Live attenuated, very good. Which of the vaccine platforms provide us with a transcript so that the proteins can be made by our own ribosomes? An mRNA, very good, very good, excellent job, excellent job. Let's go on to epidemiology. So which term describes the number of cases in a population and is usually given a rate. Like for instance, the Bordetella pertussis we see as 1 for every 100,000 individuals in the state of Texas, in the city of Austin. What is that term that we use as given as a rate? No, not prevalence. Prevalence is a whole number. The morbidity, very good, morbidity. And mortality is the death rate, right? It's given as a rate. Okay, very good. Um, what term describes an infectious agent that is in a specific population of people or a geographical? Okay, very good. What do we call infections that pop up uh, every once in a while, but that doesn't really have any kind of relation to any other infectious agent that is showing up in the area, or even sporadic? Very good. What do we call the what do we call an infectious agent that is found on all the continents except Antarctica? What do we call that? Pandemic. Can you give me an example of a pandemic organism or a pandemic infection? AIDS, COVID-19, HIV. The other one is tuberculosis. Very good. Very good. Um, so with Lyme disease, deer, squirrels, voles, things like this, they can harbor the infectious agent, but the infectious agent doesn't really cause problems on them. What term do we use to describe that? A reservoir. Very good. What about what about arthropods that can transmit an infectious agent from one individual to another? What do we call them? A vector. Very good. And what do we call these things like cockroaches and flies that don't really take a blood meal but can contaminate foods? Mechanical. Very good. Mechanical vector. Right. What is one of the principal ways that we can see things like H5N1, avian flu? How do we believe that H5N1 got from the Asian continent all the way to North America? What what hypothesis do we believe? That's more than a hypothesis, right? Bird migration. Very good. Very nice. Very good. Um, Name some things that we need to consider about the patient and what might make them more susceptible to coming down with an infection. What things do we consider? Oh, comorbidity. Good. Comorbidities, right? What else? What else? Their age. I like it. Whether they're immunocompromised. I like that too. What else? What else? Anybody? 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 I feel like I'm on an auction. Right. Hey, what time of the year um, are we most likely to see outbreaks? In the summer. Isn't that interesting? Why is that, Mercy? Why do we think summer? Why do we think summer? Yeah, because we're out and about doing things like we normally do. Where in the winter, although there could be outbreaks in the winter, they're going to be a little bit more kind of for a particular infectious agent, right? Because we're inside. But mostly it's the summertime. Very good. Can you give me some? Can you give me some um, characteristics of the parasite, the bacterium, or the infectious agent that would make them easier to be transmitted um, in a general population? Can you give me some characteristics of those things? Oh, the cyst. Okay, very good. The cyst. That's it. That's a strategy. A capsule. Okay. Those are ways that they can protect themselves, right? Those are strategies of becoming more effective. I like that. Okay. Very good. Um, be sure you know some of those. Let's see what else. Hey, what is What are the three things that epidemiologists are most interested in when they're investigating an outbreak? What are the things they tend to focus in on? Initial case, that's important, but we might not know might not know the initial case until we do the investigation. So what are the things that they're looking at? Let's say there's an outbreak of people is one of them, place and time. Very good. People, place, and time. Excellent job. Okay, very nice. And we as a society depend on the science of epidemiology to keep up with trends and track different things. And where does all that information come from? Health facilities, right? They report it passively. Very good. What is the term used to describe a infection that was spread to an individual because of a medical procedure? Nosocomial just means that it happened in a healthcare facility. I like that term. Atratogenic, very good. What is the term that is used to describe an infectious agent that can lead to the formation of cancer? What do we call that? Neoplastic, very good. I like it a lot, right? And what do we refer to in individuals who might have a hyperactive or a hypoactive reaction to infectious agents and therefore have other types of problems? What type of disease would that be? Autoimmune, that's right. I guess the term I'm, you know, anaphylaxis. Okay, those are all good terms. I guess I was looking for immunological, but okay, all right. Hey, does anybody else have any questions? I think we covered a lot of material, and it's already 1:16, so I'm a little bit over. Anybody have any other questions?